Welcome back to the second segment of Brave Business Conversation. We are here with Bryony Roberts, founder of Pragmatic Consultancy. Hello, Bryony.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Good to have you in the studio.
Well, thank you for having me. So I was just going to go through a little bit of who I am. So I started up Pragmatic Consultancy in 2020. Good timing.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
So February, and basically pivoted during COVID, looking at helping small businesses grow. Obviously, there was a big push to get online. So we now do website builds for startups, really on the emphasis of making sure that you don't go for the big website and start off with your customer profile fixed. And then obviously from that, we've also helped with social media. And we also do a lot of business strategy, which is, I think, the thing I like the most. Because obviously going into a new year, that's the most important thing, I think, is to look at your business and where you want to be for that following year.
Yeah, I think with the digital age and everything, a lot of people go digital for the sake of digital and do digital things for the sake of being in trend. But if you think about it, digital, the only use for digital is to help you with your business process and strategy. So what is the process and strategy first? But more interesting, I think, like we could get to know you a little bit about your background, right? Before you opened up your own business and your process engineering background, etc. What made you shift into helping businesses from where you were?
Yeah, so I have always wanted to be an engineer. That's super lucky for someone to know what they want to do. So even as a young child, I went to agriculture college and studied engineering. And then I joined the Royal Navy for 5 years and did most of the services in weapons engineering. Meanwhile, I also restudied some of the GCSEs because at 14, you never know what you're really wanting to do or what you need. So I did physics and science and maths again while I was in the Royal Navy, and then worked as a quality engineer, to which I still am a chartered engineer for most of the top engineering automotive companies. A lot of people said that I just ran out of good car companies to work for.
Yeah.
So I then went into oil and gas, working, supporting the rigs. And kind of the rest is history. So all of that is very process driven. It's evaluating what's working well, taking those improvements, and then looking at efficiency and effectiveness to really generate the best process for that situation. And again, sometimes it's the matter of doing nothing and waiting to see, so it is evaluating all the different routes. And that's what's really led me into where I am now. It's working with the client and evaluating what's the best thing now. And that changes, and what we want to do is support that client to be able to change with it, but also have the ability to change it themselves, not necessarily have to come back and stuff.
I remember when we worked together, it's almost like talking about results was important, but it wasn't the most important thing for you. Actually, I don't see that you're results or driven. You're more process driven, because if we put in place the right strategy and then put in place the process, then we'll get results. Yeah. If you focus on results without paying attention to the process, you get nothing.
Well, you get a different kind of
result. You get stress. You get stress. You get unnecessary, uncontrollable stress.
Yeah, I think it's really, you have to underpin what you're doing and understand that you're doing. I think obviously most people understand the word consistency in business, but it's very hard to be consistent if you haven't got a set process or an aspect of how you do it, because that consistency can change on a day-to-day basis. So for me, the most important thing is to have the foundations of a really strong business and underpinning it. And I have employees now, and I want them to feel a part of the business, but they need to be able to physically see it. For me, it's quite easy. I go away and I just do stuff, and then they go, I can't do that because I don't know what you've just done. So they have to now have a more formal process to be able to work through and achieve what they need to achieve. So actually, that's one of the beauties of it, is when you start growing, you do need to really share those processes to enable people to be a part of your business as well. So,
Absolutely. It's we used to call it put the owner's head on a piece of paper.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, not literally, but because that's a very messy piece of paper. But whatever you think is, just do this. It's so obvious, isn't it? It's common sense. Common sense is not always common. So how do we make common sense more common? Put it into a system and a process.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I'd like to talk to you more about business growth in times of uncertainty when we're back with Brave Business Conversation after this. And we're back with Bryony Roberts. We're talking about business growth in times of uncertainty. And that's not always easy, especially if you're an achiever and you want everything to be great and results to be great. But uncertainty comes. How has it been for you? You started at 2020. Let's talk about your own business. Has uncertainty appeared anywhere in your business?
Well, I think it's quite easy to answer that, as in uncertainty comes every single day. Get up. So I think it's, I went into business being uncertain. I hadn't been working for 3 years because I've been supporting my child who's got special needs. But it was really critical to kind of put a positive energy back into our relationship and stuff. So I love working. I love working with people. And it was a very good opportunity to kind of refocus. And we had a great network, both me and my husband, to pull on and re-engage. So we went into it with a great confidence. Of course, 6 weeks later, the country went into lockdown with COVID. And effectively, we worked quite heavily on the utility side, which then had to support, vulnerable people and vulnerable customers, which, obviously then meant that people like us, like consultants, that kind of income wasn't there to be able to provide. So everything was just delayed, which, is completely understandable. The interesting thing was, though, that is all my husband has done for the 29 years. So for him to pivot or understand where to go, that was the first time he felt really vulnerable in the job role. Whereas, obviously, like you've explained and said, my background is about seeing the positive in the kind of transitional skills that we have. So I can talk to someone, hopefully. And again, it's very much around looking at what else you can do. I'm great with systems. I love working or learning new systems, applying new stuff. So we just reached out, and obviously social media, being online, was a really big thing. And digitally, I really like being creative with website, which I would never thought of as an engineer. So it was really applying those skills just in a different way. But the underlying thing is everyone who has business has the same challenges. It is very much about money in, money out, balancing the books, making sure that they have what they need around them. And for us, we just became a sounding board for a new type of business who just wanted to make sure that they were doing the right thing for themselves again, which is exactly what we were doing in our previous business. So
interesting how, one thing I took away from that was, like, if you are faced with business challenges, also, what are some transferable skills that you have as a business that you can use in a different way?
Yeah.
And sometimes doing what you used to do no longer is no longer profitable. Then what else can you do? Because when you accumulate skills, it doesn't mean you have to do it in the same way all the time.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, from one of my side is, for me, I think I have too many opportunities. And I know quite a few clients will say to me that, I feel like I can do everything. I am not saying that you need to do everything, but it's finding what really excites you and what you want to do. Because I think the biggest thing is that, if you can jump out of bed and be passionate about what you're going to do that day, half the struggle has gone.
How did you do that? You opened your business in 2020, not a good year. But having
Generally.
said that, I think I did very well in 2020. Isn't that funny? Is that I
Yeah.
basically we became active in our business basically in 2020. You
Yeah.
know, but and actually 2020 was fantastic. But how did you get up in the morning in a positive way?
So I think it was. I think the only thing that is certain now is uncertainty. So it's probably the most certain thing in, over the last 18 months. So for me, getting up and just, I can't tell you how amazing people are that I've met, and really inspirational women who have taken their product and really changed it into something really quite special on a one-to-one basis or in a group basis. But I think fundamentally most people are just trying to make sure that they're helping that person with that problem at that moment in time, and obviously earning an income for themselves, which everyone has the right to. But it's that conversation. There's some conversations that I have that, you just wouldn't have had in an engineering space, but it's just, a really beautiful aspect of, being in business with lots of different businesses, and it's now not necessarily industry specific. It's just, how can I help you be in business for what you need to be in business for? So, which is a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, so really taking it day by day and really enjoying the process of what you're doing and for whom you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can I just do a shout out to businesswomen in and as some of you are listening, we've had some people on the show as well. It is a network of businesswomen, well, in 42 counties, or is it 82 now? I don't remember. And I think your role is to find and recruit new hosts as well as to support the people within and the members. And that's how we met.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very special network, and I think it allows, it doesn't have a joining fee, which I think is really important, and it's very inclusive. Wanting to support the business owner who just has an idea to those like us who are maybe 2 steps ahead, who can impart that business knowledge and those pointers of this is what I would start with, rather than don't go on Google and say, how do I be in business? You
and come up with 29 templates. And
yeah, or I think it was something like 400 billion pages of how to be in business.
Yeah.
So.
And I found it, I never got along with Business Women Network. I never made a special effort. And I find it quite different and enjoyable. I've always grown up in a very masculine energy in the business world because I did a lot of masculine industries and everything. But it was nice to be in a business community full of feminine energy, and you're just you're seeing a different style of leadership, different definitions of success, and just being there for each other is very nice.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the main things I find is that everyone is super supportive, regardless of where you are at. Was one of those who is now 2 steps ahead, but I can remember on the field chatting to some of these ladies who were my rock in 2020, and we had just met in a business meeting. They didn't have to answer that call or be there, but yeah, everyone just wanted to make sure that everyone else is safe, okay, and mentally has someone to reach out to.
It's funny when you say we're 2 steps ahead. I feel that actually it was them that saved me.
Yeah.
Because in 2019 when I moved to Bath, I was looking for a community, and I tried a few things, and I really settled with this one. So I felt very much that I'm not ahead of anyone. I'm just like, I feel like they came and they embraced me and they made me feel accepted. So I'm really, really grateful. And I think that's the takeaway. It's also for uncertainty. I think how important is it about being confident with yourself when you're trying to deal with uncertainty? Because sometimes the stress that you have is really because you feel down about yourself, and it's bad enough that the situation is uncertain. But how important is self-confidence, do you think, when handling uncertainty?
So I think, when I think about uncertainty and self-confidence is, there's a lot of businesses that don't work. It doesn't work because the idea is not good. It doesn't work because there isn't processes there. It doesn't work because we compare ourselves to each other and we look at someone else's path, someone else's journey, and that can really knock our confidence. I know when I first approached you, I had my confidence knocked. And people were quite surprised because obviously outwardly I'm like, and I think to a certain degree you were even like, really?
You're I was like, what do you mean you want me to help you? Isn't it the other way around? You ended up helping me as well. So
yeah, but I think, it's so important having the right people around you because your confidence will be knocked and it will be a trigger, who knows what. It's the way that you can pick yourself back up. There is never anything wrong. You've just got to stay doing your thing, doing your path and being you. And I think it's when we look at our business and go, it's not working, and we're comparing it to comparables that are not like for like, apples to apples. And also, the reality is that quite a lot of us only have certain amount of hours in a week and we're still wanting to do the full-time job but not have the actual hours to do that full-time job. We have to be able to be kind to ourselves in our own business and allow ourselves to really allow us to develop that self-confidence inside and be happy with those results that we're getting at that moment in time.
Yeah, I think that's acceptance makes you sane.
Yes.
I'm also reading a book called Donut Economy, out of a recommendation from a friend I had coffee with. And it was about, in the old days, we'd say achievement is getting more and more and more. But now it's also about giving back, and we can talk about that through a sustainability, point of view where you take resources. Now it's time to also replenish. But also a big resource that we take all the time is ourselves, our energy, our sleep, our time with our family. Because of this definition of success that we need more and this and blah, titles and clients and business and revenue, and all that is important because business sustains a certain lifestyle. I'm not saying all that is not important, but many of us put too much pressure on ourselves to the point that we forget to give back to ourselves.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think one of the main things is most of us have come from a corporate background.
There you go.
And we're trying to emulate that corporate background in a self-employed world. And so we're utilising the same results and challenges. My results are actually that I work 25 hours a week and I spend the rest of the time with my children. I had the ability to have 40 days down in Cornwall. And I know that has inspired other business owners going, are we allowed to do that?
Is that my job description?
Yeah.
I only have 14 days of annual leave.
Exactly. And
it's your business. Yeah, but I still have 14 days of annual leave.
Yeah, and it's, we have to make sure that those tangibles that make us who we are more important than, maybe the profit. Maybe the profit can come down a little bit because we know we're now able to have 3 months off a year off out of the business and know that we're happy with that and we accept it.
Yeah. It's funny, we open businesses, we get clients, we get everything so that we can have a better quality of life. But you don't have to wait until you're 60-something to achieve that better quality of life. But yeah, absolutely. Corporate, there's nothing wrong with corporate and they create lots of jobs and everything. But remember, when you have decided to leave corporate, I like what you said, do not emulate their definition of success and targets and everything. Because remember, with this big machine called corporate, they are owned by thousands or millions of shareholders, and they need to produce a certain they need to feed everyone, let's just say. For you, you just need to feed whoever you need to feed. And you don't really need to put yourself with the same level of stress. But I remember very well, if I didn't open my laptop every single day and check emails, or imaginary emails at that time, because I was just starting out, I felt like I wasn't worth anything. And I felt guilty not working every single day. And I had to reprogram myself to stop feeling that way, because it was conditioning, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and this is where we're incredibly hard on ourselves. And we tend to then walk away and go, it's too hard, or we start we start going back into that 9 to 5, knowing it doesn't really work for us as a whole.
And it's not really necessary either.
Yeah, and not really necessary. But, from our point of view as a business, one of our values is to make it one team. So it's kind of wrapping yourself around that person in a nice way.
With a mask on.
With a mask on. And making sure that, they still feel like a part of the team, even though they're a sole trader. We can do this together. It's just breaking it down and making it very clear about what needs to happen for you at that moment in time, not necessarily on the broader level. And yes, you could work 90 hours a week in your business, but you have to want to do that. If
Agree.
It's not for you, then don't work for it.
Yeah, no. I can vouch for that. We'll be back with more Bryony Roberts after this. But if you've been listening and you're like, what does this have to do with business growth? Why am I not hearing strategies about marketing and social media? Because I really believe what we're exchanging here is a conversation about protecting the business owner. Yeah. And helping you become more resilient in the way you see uncertainty. Because uncertainty is always going to be there no matter what flashy marketing strategy we put out there today. And whatever we say in terms of strategy might not even apply to your business. So, let's talk about how do we protect you as a business owner, as a human being, trying to do what's best for your business, your team, your family, and help you see things differently. What if your definition of success has been something that you've borrowed from your past experience? What if you've been conditioned like a robot and now you need to decondition yourself, and reshape your life the way you want it? And really understand what is it that you really need, actually, and what can you take off from your list of shoulds?
Yes, definitely.
We'll be back with Bryony Roberts, Pragmatic Consultancy, after this.
Locally made. This is Radio Bath.
Welcome back to Brain Business Conversations, still with Bryony Roberts, founder of Pragmatic Consultancy. So business growth, right? And let's talk a little bit about marketing, because everybody needs a bit of that these days.
Yep.
When you put on your process engineer hat and you look at a company that's typically struggling with marketing, getting new clients, what goes through your head? What questions do you ask? Where do we start looking for the solution?
So there's a couple of things there, because one of the things that I like to do is take it back to, so one of the things that I see in any business is the business is usually being built around what the business owner wants to do rather than what the customer needs.
Oh, right.
So
I like selling this. So obviously everybody wants to buy it.
And also they will have certain touch points and pages and stuff that are in there. I say stuff in a polite way, but makes it look pretty, makes it look nice.
You're referring to a website.
A website or like a sales page or, but actually for a customer, they just want to know what's in it for me. And a lot of the time, the what's in it for me has been diluted by the business owner basically saying, this is what I can do for you, rather than actually focusing really hard onto the core problem that the person has. So when we take on a new client, we tend to go through quite a high-level strategy. And that's looking at where they are at this current time. It picks up on certain points, like I know some people don't like ideal client, but who do you want to sell to? So we can understand kind of the messaging. And
you get like 17 different avatars out of that answer.
Yeah. Hi, Gavin. But yeah, so it's one of those things. It just enables us as a business to understand really, where are you thinking that you can sell? Where do you want to be? Because again, marketing doesn't necessarily need to be a website. It could be advertising just in your local parish magazine or supporting the local community, going back to leaflet drops through the doors if you are just wanting your local
exactly. And I think
community.
If you understand where your ideal market, how they get to know you, like you, and trust you, many of them are not online,
Yeah.
and they have been, or they are online, but they've been bombarded online, and they appreciate a human approach.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we take everything from a customer's perspective. Now,
Exactly.
I say this as something that is really easy, but it's really hard to do if you are the only person in your business, is to have like a independent or a fresh eyes approach, because you're in that marketing. You're creating the content, you're doing the pictures, you just kind of get lost in your own messaging. Whereas for a firm to stand back and kind of go, well, we could look at changing this or adapting this or doing this, can seem, wow, never thought of it. It's purely because we're looking at it from a customer's perspective directly. So,
Or, like we were talking about during the break, was if you've been selling a service for years and you're very good at that, if you are very you-centric or me-centric, like you might think, okay, well, this is what I do. I do this service all the time.
Yep.
But then if you don't look at it from a customer's point of view, they trust you now and they start expanding their needs with you. They now
grown.
trust you and they say, well, I need this and need that. And you start giving all the other stuff for free.
Yeah.
Then you're actually losing out on a revenue opportunity. For instance, I remember, I have a business coaching consultancy, for instance. If we just say all we do is business coaching, well, wait a second. Now our customers trust us enough to the point where they want us to help them sell their company. And we say, oh, I'll help you do that company brokerage for free. Yeah, that's actually a revenue stream.
Yeah.
But, you could do that once or twice, get good at it, but then realize, like, should I be expanding my services to include new stuff? Not to lose out on the old service, but also to expand, because that's what my customers need. And they'd rather go to me than find a new a broker.
Yeah, right? I think there's a lot of sole traders. One of the really simple things I do is, can you write down everything you spend on your business? And there's a lot of, really? Like everything? Yeah, no, like everything you spend on your business, because a sole trader is usually talking to between 5 and 8 different people for different services, and also has a whole array of apps.
Oh, right.
And systems and
Death
stuff.
by subscription.
But basically, none of them are talking to each other, and some are actually duplicating each other. But all of this is now a business expense, where that business owner is starting to feel stressed, overwhelmed. I can't manage all of these and run my business and make products potentially, so, they're already into overwhelm just by the sheer availability of tools and processes and techniques out there.
So what you do is streamline that into one.
We streamline it into what do you need right now? And we tend to, most of the time I've done this, 2/3 of the list has disappeared, and we've got a customer journey that allows touch points for the customer to be engaged with that person quite quickly, so they can't answer any questions, or they're being filtered through to a journey that allows them to get the answers that they need, without the business owner feeling overwhelmed with where's that information coming through from. So it's trying to really make sure, where is this home for this customer? Because most customers would like to be in a home, not that kind of home, but like in a home where they're able to know what the expected outcome is. I get an ebook, or I've bought a product, or I've booked a one-to-one. They just want to feel like they've reached their home with that person. And a lot of the times, actually, that business owner is then emailing them, what time works for you? I don't know, because,
Or just have a calendar software
that
just does it all. Yeah. I love my calendar software, by the way. It just, you hate it. But, you're right. We get death by subscription because we just add this software, and before you know, we've got like 7 different things pretty much duplicating each other.
Yeah.
And then we realize, we throw our hands up and says, I hate all this technology stuff.
I
when
can't
actually
do
you go back to, what is your business process? What is the customer journey you'd like to have for your perspective and your existing clients? Then the second question is, do you need that to be technologically leveraged? If the answer is yes, then which one?
Yeah.
You know, which particular one and how do we talk to each other? Then only that. Because sometimes if you are rushing to get results, you go to any networking group, somebody says, oh, I've got this software, it's really cool. And you're like, right, 14-day free trial. Before you know it, you're being charged £20 a month. And before you know it, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you're like me, you try to save money and do an annual subscription. You realize 5 months later, like, can I get a refund?
I haven't used this at all. Yeah. Yeah, and it's that just simple thing of reducing that overwhelm, that complexity that is perceived in business. And that is kind of the culture of, well, you need this, you need all of this to be able to be in business. You don't, you need you and a good understanding of what and where you're going with your business.
Yeah, yeah. I also like when I worked with you for my business, I start with you, the strategic alignment session.
Yeah.
2 hours, we talked about what we want. And then I never really meet your team until I met Jesse and whoever was helping me at the time. But it was all you front facing. But I knew you had a team behind you, so it wasn't just you.
Yeah.
You know, because I'd be really, really afraid of just working with just you, you know, just in case. I mean, no offense, but 40 days in Cornwall can get really distracting. And then, you know, you just realize that you've got a system, you've got a team behind you. And when I refer people to you, I always say, you know what, if you work with her, it is her, you get that, but you also get the team behind her that you don't really need to see. It just gets things done.
So we have updated that on my website because a lot of my clients were like, I just need a Bryony.
Yeah.
And there is only one of me.
Yeah.
So, which some people are quite blessed about. But like, from a business point of view, we are now a consultancy firm with, I think we have 8 employees, and then we have, we're supporting the Kickstart scheme as well, so the 16 to 24-year-olds. And we have 8 Kickstarts who have come through, and we're currently recruiting 3 more. So,
Beautiful.
but there is a beautiful team that is there, and really being aligned to what works for the aspects of what that person needs at that moment in time. So we're really starting to align the fact of if you don't need business strategy, i.e. we've got a good plan for where you are, you won't need me. You will have other people in the team who will now be supporting you on a one-to-one level. Now, we give you the option of you can either talk to them or that's done through me, you know, to minimise that distraction and time. Some people like feeling like there is a big team and talking, whereas some people like, I get super distracted. If it comes through you, I know I have to do it, you know, so it just allows that communication and that voice of the customer to be a lot clearer.
I also find what you do is declutter a lot of
Noise.
Yeah, noise. We talked about having multiple platforms that do the same thing and end up overwhelming you. But also a lot of, I think what's different is because you've done business growth. Not just read about it or read a blog or two or studied it in school, but you've done business growth. And working with someone like you, it's like you filter out what you think should be done and just stick to what actually works. Yeah. Do you find that there's certain patterns that no matter what business, what industry you're working with, there's just certain patterns about if you are trying to grow your business, here are the fundamentals?
Yeah, and that goes back to, I think, why we started the business in the first place is that there is a lot of support for businesses out there, and it is just making sure that you have the right information for you at that moment in time. So working through methodically allows us to really understand, and I'm going to say this honestly, the customers that I had a year ago are now coming back and sort of saying, right, I'm on my next stage of my journey. Some people do it every 3 months, you know, their business strategy is quite high growth, and then they have to reevaluate and look where they're going. So every business has usually a passionate business owner who knows what they want to achieve. So it is very much those alignment sessions on a month or quarterly basis, depending on that growth, to really understand, are we still in tune? Do we need to reevaluate do we need to slow down because the customer may not have, because of, you know, certain circumstances, may not have those funds anymore that they did have in the future, you know, in the past and stuff. So, you know, it's really staying in tune with your customer market and your profile of what you want to achieve. But again, it comes back to down to the business owner. And
yeah, and I think a lot of people think too far out, whereas discussions with you and what I like to do as well is keep things present. Yeah. So what's the very next step? What's the very next step? What is the systems you need right now? Instead of, and if we need more, we'll talk more when we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. But a lot of people try to over plan, and I think, I went through all this systems myself, business coaching system, and they do a 5-year plan, 2-year, 3-year. I think what really works and gets stuck is 3 months. Yeah. 1 month sometimes, depending on what kind of a person there are. There's people who are programmed to think long term, but there's lots of people who do much better thinking short term and remaining in the present, not so much in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you're absolutely right. It's focused on what you want to achieve right now.
Excellent. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can go on our website, which is www.thinkpragmatic.co.uk, or you can find me on LinkedIn under Bryony Bartlett.
Very good. We'll need to change that. Bryony Roberts, Pragmatic Consultancy. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Cynthia.